season. We know she was dealing with a lot coming off our national championship game, entering the WNBA. Big time transition. I understand that, but we also have to hold these WNBA referees accountable because they played a big factor in the assault Caitlin Clark took for the 2024 season because they did not call a bunch of calls that should have been fouls, bro.
The WNBA is facing a major referee crisis, and Caitlin Clark's rookie season has become the center of this growing controversy. I'm about to show you footage that will completely shift your perspective on the challenges she's faced in the league. From unfair technical fouls to obvious missed calls, the pattern is hard to ignore. This matters because even if Indiana's management brings in better coaches or top free agents, real progress can't happen if the officiating remains this.
We know the Indiana Fever front office did everything they had to do, put the right pieces around Caitlin Clark, make sure they make it far in the playoffs to possibly get a WNBA championship.
One Caitlin Clark's experience is uncovering deeper problems that could shape the future of the entire WNBA.
Prime example, what really made me start thinking about this was the DJ Currington situation. They didn't call nothing on that for her poking Caitlin Clark in the eye, and that really had me thinking like, damn, how many times did they actually, drop the ball and didn't call stuff against Caitlin?
Have you ever watched a basketball game and thought the refs were unfairly focusing on one player? That's exactly what Caitlin Clark faced last season, and I have the proof to back it up. From the moment Clark stepped into the WNBA, viewership skyrocketed, setting records everywhere. But while all eyes were on Clark, something strange was going on with the way her games were being called.
Caitlin got called for a technical for hitting the back of the backboard. If somebody viciously clotheslined her, we're not getting a call for that. And I just wondered if they would have done it a little different, just start calling stuff for people assaulting Caitlin Clark, that would have kind of minimized the pressure and minimized the assault I believe she would have took for the 2024 season. And going into this new season, once again, they're held responsible, bro.
The story around Clark's rookie season often centered on her adjusting to the physicality of the pro level, but that barely scratches the surface of what really happened. Time. And again, referees overlooked obvious fouls. She took hard contact on drives, got shoved on jump shots, and was constantly bumped off the ball. Remember that offensive foul on June 13th against Seattle? Clark made a simple dribble move, but the whistle still blew. Even the commentators were confused. "I'm not seeing a foul there," one said, as the replay showed almost no contact.
Second personal, let's take a look.
I think we ought to be able to see it from this angle. I don't see how that's an offensive foul to me.
Now that was called an offensive foul on Caitlin Clark. Do we all remember that play? How was that an offensive foul, bro? How remotely is this right here an offensive foul, dog? How? Like, I'm just not getting that. But that was the call that was put on Caitlin Clark.
It wasn't just a one-time thing, it became a clear pattern. Watching her season felt like witnessing a referee with an agenda. When you review the footage, it's hard to deny that Clark was officiated differently. Players like Aja Wilson and Brianna Stewart made the exact same moves and got the benefit of the doubt, while Clark often ended up with a foul called against.
I am not letting up on them damn WNBA referees because they are the biggest haters when it comes to Caitlin Clark, bro. I know we got haters everywhere, but nobody is worse than these WNBA referees.
Played Clark differently because they knew they could get away with extra contact, bumping her on drives, stepping into her landing space on jumpers, and constantly hand-checking her without any calls.
Unnecessary. Kennedy Carter. Seattle, and all of a sudden, we're pretty close. This has been as close as it's been all second quarter long, 44.
With Clark's high usage rate and how often she attacked the rim, she should have earned far more trips to the free throw line, yet she averaged only 3.7 per game. Other rookies with similar offensive roles and playing styles got nearly twice as many free throws, while Clark missed out on countless chances that...
There was also a stat that came out a few weeks ago that said Caitlin Clark received 17% of the WNBA's flagrant fouls this season, and 80% of those flagrant fouls were committed by the Chicago Sky against Caitlin Clark.
The effect stretched far beyond the box score. Adjusting to a faster, more physical league is already tough. But realizing the officials are holding you to a different standard makes it even harder. It messes with your confidence, your decisions, and your overall flow. As the season progressed, the problem only grew. Once defenders realized they could get away with extra contact, they leaned into it even more, knowing there would be no—
You have the face of your league getting nearly 20% of all flagrant fouls called against her. That is an issue, and that's not just an issue that the players have to work out. That is from top down. That goes to the commissioner level. Like, that is the level that needs to control these kinds of things.
The way Caitlin Clark was targeted went from bad to downright dangerous, and that's no exaggeration. There's actual footage of Clark getting completely knocked to the floor on a drive, and the refs didn't call a thing. How does something like that happen in a professional league? Let me show you.
Pick up Caitlin Clark from the second she touches the basketball. That's what Burton did there. All over Caitlin going inside. I mean, that's a foul.
If you watch the games closely, it's clear Clark was playing under a completely different set of rules. In one shocking moment, she drove to the basket and got absolutely knocked down. You could even hear the commentators instantly react, shouting, "That's a foul!" in pure disbelief. But the refs, they stood there, silent, as if nothing had—
About again. She's coming down the court. Bow. It looked like Morena did that to her, bro. But that's what I'm talking about.
This turned into a troubling pattern. In one game alone, Clark was sent to the floor 3 different times without drawing a single foul. It felt like watching someone walk a tightrope with no safety net in sight. Fans at home saw it all unfold in real time, left yelling at their screens in disbelief.
This page stated, this has been pretty much the whole game. No call fouls for Caitlin Clark. The WNBA and their officials now know how to screw up a good thing.
Difference in how defenders guarded Clark compared to other guards says it all. Take Marina Mabrey, for example. The way she defended most players versus how she played Clark was completely different. Mabrey quickly realized she could be much more physical with Clark, and the refs would just let it slide. And who could forget the incident with Dejonai Carrington?
Caitlin comes off a screen here. She dribbles back to her right hand, and then she's going for the pass to Aaliyah Boston when Dejonai jumps up, seemingly looking to try to steal the ball, and then hits her in the face. Caitlin is on the ground, the ball goes in the opposite direction, and the Connecticut Sun score. The internet doing what the internet does, they found a second angle to this play, and this is where a lot of fans were saying that this was intentional. It's in slow motion, as you can see here. Dejonai is going up for the ball. She misses, and then her hand bends down like this and goes straight into Caitlin's eye.
Clark was blatantly poked in the eye, a dangerous play and an obvious foul by any rulebook, but the refs stayed silent and didn't even review it. In that very same quarter, another player was whistled for barely brushing an opponent's arm. The double standard made it feel like 2 completely different games were happening on the same court. It became so clear that even former WNBA referees spoke out. One former official openly admitted that Clark was being officiated under a noticeably different standard than other players. And that's coming from someone who knows the URI.
Back on this, we say, how can the WNBA justify these referees? Caitlin Clark gets blatantly fouled twice, no call. I guess that's the playoffs, but these are bad.
What we saw wasn't just a few missed calls. It was a pattern that directly put Clark's safety at risk. Every ignored foul gave defenders more confidence to push the limits, and some of the contacts started to look more like football than basketball. When referees fail to step in, physical play naturally escalates. What starts as aggressive defense quickly turns into dangerous situations that have no place in the game. Clark wasn't just battling tough defense. She was forced to play through real injury risks while the officials stood by game after game.
You need to protect your superstars, and the WNBA has not done well this entire season of protecting their one superstar who brought in more eyeballs than anyone else has ever done in the league. She should have a special whistle. Calls like this should be made, should be reviewed. People should know right off the bat, it shouldn't be the first round of the playoffs that players think that they can still do this kind of thing to Caitlin Clark.
This isn't about asking for special treatment. It's about making sure Clark gets the same protection every player is entitled to. Basketball is a physical game, but there's a clear line between tough defense and reckless, dangerous plays. Clark was forced to deal with the latter, all while the officials looked the other way.
calling some of these fouls and not cracking down on some of these cheap shots and hard fouls that are so excessive, not only against Caitlin Clark, but against other players as well. You see compilations of them online. Not cracking down on these are going to turn people off to watching the WNBA, and it's not going to allow the league to grow and people to be more excited in players other than Caitlin Clark.